T was doubt. A few voices in the crowd made it clear they weren't impressed. Bruce Lee heard it. He didn't react. The venue isn't enormous, but it's full enough that every seat feels occupied. Folding chairs stretch in long, straight rows across a polished gymnasium floor that reflects the overhead lights. The lights are bright but flat, the kind that leave no shadows and no drama. Banners hang loosely against the back wall, slightly wrinkled, listing the name of the event and a few sponsors. It feels ordinary, local, practical. People shift in their seats while they wait. Some are here out of curiosity. Some are instructors from other schools. Some are students who came because their teacher suggested it. There's conversation moving lightly through the room. Nothing loud, just steady background noise. When his name is announced, the reaction doesn't rise all at once. It comes in pieces. A few claps from the front rows. A few scattered boos from somewhere in the middle. One short laugh that carries a little too far before fading. It isn't aggressive. No one stands. No one shouts anything harsh. It's the kind of sound people make when they're unsure and slightly dismissive. Arms fold across chests. A man near the aisle tilts his head and smirks. Two others lean toward each other and whisper something quick before leaning back again. Not hostile, just skeptical. Someone mutters under their breath. Someone shakes his head slowly. A few people don't react at all, they simply watch. Bruce Lee steps onto the mat without hurry. No rush in his pace. No hesitation either. His steps are even, measured. He doesn't look toward the section where the boos came from. He doesn't scan the crowd to locate the laughter. The crowd doesn't quiet completely when he reaches the center. A chair scrapes softly against the floor. A program folds shut. Someone coughs. He stands there for a moment, balanced. Hands relaxed at his sides, breathing steady. The noise continues in small pockets around the room. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't gesture for silence. He doesn't respond at all. He gives a small bow, nothing dramatic, just a simple forward tilt of the head and shoulders. It's brief, almost easy to miss if someone is still adjusting in their seat. A few more comments drift from the back. All right then, let's see it. Not loud, not confrontational, just casual doubt spoken out into the open. He straightens. There's no visible reaction in his face, no tightening around the eyes, no forced smile to smooth the tension. His expression stays neutral, focused inward rather than outward. His shoulders remain loose. His hands don't clench. He doesn't pace or shift nervously. He simply stands in place for a second longer than the crowd expects. The background noise doesn't disappear. People are still moving. A few whispers continue. Someone adjusts their jacket. Another person checks something in their lap. He steps into position. It's subtle. Just a small adjustment of his feet on the mat. One foot angles slightly forward. His weight settles evenly. His posture straightens, but not rigidly. It looks natural, like someone standing comfortably rather than performing. A minute passes. The crowd expected a louder beginning, a sharp introduction, something bold to counter the boos. Instead, there is stillness. He inhales slowly. The movement is barely noticeable, but his chest rises and falls with controlled rhythm. His breathing doesn't change under the pressure of being watched. Another voice from the side says something low. A few quiet laughs follow, but they're weaker than before. He doesn't glance in that direction. He lifts one hand calmly and lets it fall back to his side, not as a gesture to the crowd, just as part of settling into his body. The mat beneath him is silent. No foot tapping, no restless shifting. A second minute begins. The audience waits for something big, something explosive, something that will either confirm their doubt or force them to reconsider. He doesn't rush to fill the space. He allows the silence around him to stay unfinished. The longer he remains steady, the more noticeable the crowd's movement becomes. The whispers feel slightly out of place now, not because he demanded quiet, but because he hasn't competed with the noise. His presence doesn't expand. It doesn't push outward. It simply stays. And the room, slowly, begins to measure itself against that stillness. He moves first without warning. No dramatic wind-up, no loud shout. Just motion, a single step forward, a controlled strike through the air. The sound is sharp, but contained a clean snap that doesn't echo, yet somehow carries. It isn't flashy. It's precise. He returns to stillness immediately. No pose. No glance toward the audience to check their reaction. His breathing stays even, as if nothing unusual just happened. For a moment, the crowd doesn't know how to respond. A few people in the middle rows lean slightly forward. Not dramatically, just enough to see more clearly. One of the men who had his arms crossed earlier slowly lets them drop to his lap. Another movement, faster this time. The shift in speed is subtle but noticeable. It's not exaggerated. It doesn't look wild. It looks efficient, as if every part of the motion has a purpose and nothing extra was added. The room reacts differently now. Not louder, quieter. The whispers thin out. A woman near the aisle who had been looking around the venue now keeps her eyes fixed on the mat. Someone in the back row lowers his voice mid-sentence and doesn't finish what he was saying. 2 minutes have passed. The earlier laughter feels distant, almost misplaced. He continues. A short combination. Step, turn, strike, reset. Each movement ends cleanly. No lingering flourish. No attempt to dramatize the finish. When the action stops, it stops completely. The mat feels smaller now. Not physically smaller, but more defined. The space around him seems clearer, less distracted. Another minute passes. The audience expected noise from him, a show, a performance that would push back against their doubt. Instead, he's giving them control. The control forces attention. He shifts his stance again, slightly changing angle. The transition is smooth, almost quiet. The only real sound is the soft contact of his foot against the mat. A few heads tilt. Someone in the front row adjusts forward in his chair, elbows now resting on his knees. 3 minutes in. No one is laughing. No one is shaking their head anymore. The dismissive energy has softened into observation. He increases speed again briefly, a sudden burst that seems to start and finish before the eye fully tracks it. There's no gasp, but there is stillness. And this time, it holds a second longer than before. The room feels different now, though no one has said anything. The earlier restlessness has faded. No chairs scraping, no low laughter, no whispered commentary drifting across rows. The background noise that once filled the space has thinned into something barely noticeable. Bruce Lee shifts his weight again. Slow, balanced, intentional. There is no rush in him. He steps into another sequence. Not bigger, not louder, just tighter, more refined. Each motion begins exactly where the last one ended. Nothing overlaps. Nothing spills over. A man in the third row, who had leaned back with casual skepticism earlier, is now leaning forward without realizing it. His chin rests lightly on his hand. His eyes don't move away from the mat. A phone that had been held up casually is lowered. Not out of boredom, but because the person holding it wants a clearer view. The atmosphere tightens, but gently. Bruce Lee pauses again. This pause is longer than the others. Not dramatic, not defiant, just still. The kind of stillness that doesn't ask for attention, but quietly holds it. The crowd waits. No one fills the silence this time. No one makes a comment. He resumes with a short burst of speed. A shift, a strike, a stop. The stop is as clean as the motion. No exaggerated breathing, no visible strain. His face remains unchanged, focused, neutral. The room absorbs it. 5 minutes. The skepticism that entered with the booze has nowhere to land now. There's nothing loud to criticize, nothing exaggerated to reject, just control. Even the air feels steadier. People sit upright. Conversations that had started earlier never restart. The noise that once felt casual now feels inappropriate. He moves again, slightly faster, slightly closer to the edge of the mat. No applause, no cheering, just attention. And that attention feels heavier than any reaction. He finishes another short sequence and stands still. No gesture asking for approval. No look toward the crowd. He simply stands. And the room stays with him. The room is fully quiet now. Not the kind of silence that follows a command. Not the silence of authority forcing compliance. It's something else. Something that settled gradually without anyone announcing it. Bruce Lee steps into one final sequence. There is no visible build-up. No signal that this is meant to be the last. He simply moves. The motion is quick, but not chaotic. Controlled speed. A short advance. A clean strike that cuts through the air with a precise sound. A turn. A stop. The stop is complete. His body returns to stillness. Instantly. No sway. No adjustment. Just balanced posture. Feet grounded evenly on the mat. The silence deepens. You can hear a faint shift of fabric from someone adjusting in their seat. It sounds louder than it should in a room this size. That's how quiet it has become. No one laughs. No one whispers. No one challenges. The earlier doubt feels distant, almost misplaced in memory. The people who had folded their arms now sit with hands resting openly on their knees. The man who had smirked near the aisle keeps his eyes forward, expression neutral. Bruce Lee doesn't look around to measure the effect. He doesn't scan faces for approval. He doesn't nod as if acknowledging that something changed. He simply remains there, breathing steady. A full second passes, then another. The silence isn't uncomfortable. It's focused, as if the crowd is collectively processing what they just saw, not in dramatic shock, but in recalibration. Someone near the center begins to clap. It isn't loud. It isn't explosive. Just steady and controlled. Another joins, then another. The applause builds gradually, but it stays measured. No shouting, no cheering over one another. Just a consistent rhythm. Bruce Lee gives a slight bow. Not exaggerated, not theatrical, just acknowledgement. He steps back from the center of the mat, at the same pace he walked in with, even unhurried. As he moves away, conversations begin again, but they're different now, quieter, more thoughtful. The tone has shifted. No one mentions the booze. No one repeats the laughter. The banners still hang loosely on the wall. The lights are still bright and flat. The folding chairs haven't moved. Nothing in the room physically changed, but the atmosphere has. He didn't argue with doubt. He didn't react to dismissal. He didn't try to overpower the noise. He stood in it without adjusting himself to match it. And over the span of a few minutes, the room adjusted instead. He didn't silence the crowd. They just stopped making noise.